Alright, I am back with yet another Pauper deck. This time round, it's a black-white mid-range deck that seeks to gain value with lots of creatures with enter the battlefield effects. And then we also have spells to blink them so that we get more value out of those effects. So first up, the 1-drops, we've got Thraben Inspector, 1 white for a 1/2. When it enters the battlefield, investigate. In terms of 2-drops, we have Kor Skyfisher, 2 for a 2/3, 1 generic, 1 white. It has flying, and it says when it enters the battlefield, return a permanent you control to its owner's hand. So normally that's a downside, but in a deck where we have lots of enter the battlefield effects, we can actually use this as an upside to play our creatures again. Then we also have this new good boy from Neon Dynasty. It's Spirited Companion, 2 mana for a 1/1, 1 generic, 1 white. When Spirited Companion enters the battlefield, draw a card. Let's move on to the 3-drops. We are playing 4 copies of Chittering Rats, an all-star from mono black control decks. It's 3 mana for a 2/2, 1 generic, 2 black. When Chittering Rats enters the battlefield, target opponent puts a card from their hand on top of their library. Okay, then we're also playing 4 copies of Fleshbag Marauder, 3 mana for a 3/1, 2 generic, 1 black. When Fleshbag Marauder enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature. Then we're playing Phyrexian Rager, another card from mono black control decks. It's 3 mana for a 2/2, 2 generic, 1 black. When Phyrexian Rager enters the battlefield, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Then, the reverse of Phyrexian Rager, we have this card from the D&D set. It's Priest of Ancient Law. 3 mana for a 2/1, 2 generic, 1 white. When Priest of Ancient Law enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life and draw a card. Then, we also have 2 copies of Okiba-Gang Shinobi. It's 5 mana for a 3/2, 3 generic, 2 black. It says whenever Okiba-Gang Shinobi deals combat damage to a player, that player discards 2 cards. So some very powerful hand disruption here. And then, of course, it also has ninjutsu. Its ninjutsu cost is 4, 3 generic, 1 black. Then, the rest of our deck is our ways of blinking creatures and returning them from our graveyard to the battlefield so that we get more value from their ETB triggers. First up is the very, very good Ephemerate from Modern Horizons. 1 white for an instant. Exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield. Then it also has Rebound, so if you cast this spell from your hand, exile it as it resolves. At the beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast it from exile without paying its mana cost, so very, very cool. Then we have Omen of the Dead, 1 black for an enchantment with flash. When it enters the battlefield, return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. It also has pay 3 mana, sacrifice Omen of the Dead, scry 2. Then we're playing 2 copies of Feign Death, 1 black for an instant. Until end of turn, target creature gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped, under its owner's control, with a +1/+1 counter on it. So yet another way to return our creatures from the graveyard to the battlefield. Similarly, we are playing 2 copies of Supernatural Stamina, 1 black for an instant. Until end of turn, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped, under its owner's control. And then finally, we have Unearth. It's 1 black for a sorcery. Return target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this can reanimate any creature in our deck, with the exception of Okiba-Gang Shinobi. Then Unearth also has cycling, so for 2 colorless, you can simply discard Unearth and draw a card, making it quite versatile. So there you have it. A pretty cool, mid-rangey, black-white, blink/reanimator aggro deck. If you've played similar lists or you have your own spicy black-white brew, please let me know in the comments. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next deck tech.